Hello, I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us this week on Newsmakers. Well, each year at Missouri Southern, I try to interview faculty and staff members who are retiring. Well, in 2016, we have about 30 people on the list, so we're going to interview some of them in the studio and try to visit with some of them later on location at a retirement reception. But in the studio joining me today is Dr. Terri Agee, who's retiring from the School of Business. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
And on these programs, I like to kind of highlight your career. And I know probably one of the questions people ask when they hear you're retiring is, well, how does it feel to be this close to retirement?
It feels wonderful. No complaints. In fact, I'm getting more and more excited every day. It's hard to contain my excitement. But
so you see that ends inside.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. You start thinking of all the things that you will now have time to do that you haven't. And the more you start realizing it's going to happen, the more ideas come to your head. I can now do this, I can now do this, or go there, see this person.
So retirement's almost a beginning in itself.
It really is. It really is.
New phase. We'll share some information about your background, of course, your business and law background.
Yes, I went to William Jewell College and double majored in business administration and public relations. And after graduation, worked about 3 years in the insurance industry and wanted to do something more challenging. So I went to law school, went to the University of Utah College of Law. And then right after I graduated, my husband and I moved back to Kansas City because that's where we're both from. And so studied the bar and passed the bar and started working at Leggett & Platt. My husband, he went to the University of Utah as well and studied film. And we were down here on a weekend visiting my aunt and uncle. And on the way back, we drove past KGCS-TV. And he said, that's the kind of place I'd really like to work. And I said, well, run in and just see if there's any openings. And so he's like, well, okay. So on the way out of town, we stopped and he ran in and lo and behold, there was an opening and he ended up interviewing for a position and that's how we came from Kansas City down to Joplin. And so as soon as I got my results on the bar, I wanted to get the bar passed and under my belt, then then I started looking for a job and started Leggett & Platt.
Right. So you were in the Joplin area, and then from there you came to Missouri Southern.
That's right.
And so coming to Missouri Southern, you were with Human Resources Department. So tell me about that position.
Much different place than it is now. When I walked into the HR department, there weren't computers on everyone's desk. And so, vacation and sick was kept in a ledger. Everybody's name, every single employee, and every month, how much they earned, how much they took. And the application, you could check off if you were married, widowed, separated, or divorced.
So job applications were totally different world back then.
Totally different. Your eye color, your hair color.
Wow.
What are some of the other questions on the application?
So things we wouldn't dream of asking about today.
Do you own, rent, room, or board?
Wow.
I mean, that's how long I've been here, Judy. It's been different.
What interested you in coming to Missouri Southern for Human Resources?
Well, at Leggett & Platt, I was the liaison between the legal department and the human resources department. And so I would do a lot of traveling and handle discrimination claims based on age, religion, race, sex, national origin, and NLRB allegations. And so I was doing a lot of traveling and absolutely loving it. I really loved my job at Leggett & Platt. Very exciting, and I had over 50 branches that I would, regularly go to when situations arose. But I was in the process of starting a family, and I knew that it was something I probably couldn't
Hard to travel when you have the children at home, right?
Indeed, and lived right in College Skyline at the time, and just almost the same day I started thinking maybe I'm not going to be able to continue this level of travel with a young family. Friend walked in with the Joplin Globe and said, hey, there's an ad in the paper and I think you'd be perfect for it. And I'm like, oh, kind of took it as a sign. So I applied, and that's what brought me to Southern.
So you served 9 years in the HR
9
department.
years, yes.
And when people think of human resources, I guess that's what we call it now. In the past, it was like, what, the personnel
It was the
department?
personnel department, yes.
So has the role of the HR department itself changed over the years? It's gone beyond just, we're going to handle payroll and vacation time.
Yes, I think it was more of a, just kind of a, almost a bookkeeping processing department, where you just kept track of, you know, the employees and their information and their vacation sick, et cetera. And of course now there's a lot of benefit administration, and again, payroll has become much more complicated. The whole employee relations aspect, and I know it's now HR is more involved in a lot more, you know, higher level decision making than they used to be.
So when hired somebody, they had their job, and then you followed up, and you mentioned the paperwork. That sounds interesting. I know that the old days of filling out a paper application, but you must have had a massive room with all this paperwork.
Oh yes, and all the filing and everything. Yeah, nothing was automated. In fact, I got my first computer probably about 5 years after I started working here at Missouri Southern. I remember I'd never used a mouse, and Michelle Dawson worked closely with her at that time, and she said, well, and she brought up solitaire, and she said, this is the best way to learn how to use the mouse, so I'm trying to. And that's how I learned, and shortly after that I had to have one of my own at home because I realized how great they were.
And now we can't live without them.
That's exactly right. Internet goes down and we all scream.
So that's the changes in HR. The responsibilities probably grew throughout the years as well. Then, as you talked about, you know, benefits came into more of the picture, insurance, and those types of things.
And we expanded and hired more employees. So we've grown a lot.
So when you started, there were a lot fewer employees as Missouri Southern employees.
Yes.
The university has grown.
Yes, and we talk about being a family, and it was easier to be a family because there were less of us, and we were very close, and I remember knowing nearly every person on campus. I can't say that today.
Right. You can look at the list of employees and say, they're in this building, they're in that building.
That's right, that's right.
And tying that together. You then made a move to administration from HR. Tell me about that move to business affairs.
It was kind of a natural progression because I'd worked with Dr. Teedy, you know, for 9 years. But I really enjoyed the vice president's position because we had a great team. Had a great team all throughout Southern. The folks I've worked with have been just phenomenal, and those are my great memories. Are the people that I worked with. But we had a really cohesive team, and it was great, and you know, broadened, you know, learned more about the operations of the university, and be able to make some positive changes in areas.
People, you know, watching John Q. Public may not realize all the business side of the university. They see
the
classroom side and they think of students, but it really takes a lot, I guess I could say, behind the scenes to help the business side of paying the bills, making things happen at the school.
And it wasn't just, you know, budget and operations in that respect, but also the physical plant, all the construction, the maintenance, the grounds, the custodial, and then athletics. At that time I was over athletics, and then IT, and again, you know, with all the computers, and that was a major change to the campus. Big change to have an IT department in the first place. Exactly, right? and it was just exploding at that time, and we wanted to keep up and understand and be with the new technology. And then student affairs in the dorms, and then in-house legal counsel as well. That was the other hat
that you would wear in that role. You mentioned buildings. Were there any key buildings you remember going up while you were there in the office and seeing what's we have so many new, quote, new buildings on campus.
We do. We've really grown. My very first project was the Flag of Freedom that's on the Oval right now. And then we, of course, renovated the mansion, and that was a really exciting project to preserve, you know, history and to renovate that in such a beautiful way. So that was a project of love by many people.
And that really was a community effort.
It was community effort, and it drew in just, you know, everybody came together on that. We had some very generous donations and a lot of research being done to preserve it the way it was, getting out old photos and trying to see that we restored it to its as much original condition as we could. So that was a wonderful project, and of course the Health Sciences building. The Health Sciences building originally was going to be on the hillside right behind Hearns Hall.
Right.
But we moved it where it is right now to kind of open up that green space and preserve that in the center of campus. And of course the rec center.
Right.
That was an exciting project. We never tackled anything like that before.
And that was really kind of a student-driven project.
It was. It certainly was. And that would not be in existence today if the students hadn't rallied behind that. The Student Senate was very active in getting that project pushed forward. And lots of community support with that. All of these construction projects have all been a result of community support. The Flag of Freedom, Jim Dawson, that was his dream, and he funded that and designed it, and he was just exceptional to work with.
And those are places that people recognize on campus now.
That's right.
We'll meet at the flagpole. We know where the flagpole's at.
And it's kind of fun. Like today, I'll be in a meeting and I'll just look down, I'll glance maybe at a carpet or a light fixture, and I'll remember conversations we had about
what goes in the building, what goes in there. Right.
Yeah.
And the rec center itself, that was a student-driven project, but that really, at the time, I know the discussion of how it was going to enhance student life on campus.
Yes, and I think if you ask the students, they'd say it definitely has. And I go over there every time I go over to that area. I always check and just to kind of look at use and what's being used, and it doesn't matter if I go in at 7:30 in the morning or if I go in for an evening meeting. There are students using the facility, and it's just great to see.
So that was a foresight, looking to the future. We have this, we're going to build it, and it's going to be here for future students and use.
And with the health center right there, so that the Wilcoxon Health Center, that has been a fantastic improvement for student health and the services they offer. They've expanded a lot of services, so that's a great benefit.
So different aspects of how you can serve the students. And then the academic side, you mentioned health sciences. There was a need for that building for many years before you were able to get that dream into a reality.
And that's why it's great to see that there will be renovations to Reynolds, because I know that has been a project for a long time that we've been wanting and needing that project.
Right. So, and the health science is still continuing to evolve, and uses, as things, the world changes, those buildings change in their needs and going along. So you were Vice President of Business Affairs, dealt with a lot of things that people don't realize behind the scenes, but forefront, let's get the future, building for the future at Southern. Planning for the future, looking at that master plan, I guess. What can we do?
Yes, and we did have a master plan, and I enjoyed that.
Good. Then you made the big step to acting president, and so a lot of people are curious. That was a big time when you became acting president. Share some thoughts about that time in your life.
It was scary. I really hated to see Dr. Leon go because we worked so closely together. But again, the campus came together, worked closely with Mike Kennedy, Faculty Senate President. It's before we had the Staff Senate.
Right.
It would have been nice to have had the Staff Senate at that time. It would have been helpful. But everybody did, come together and, manage the transition, I think, really well. So
that was a challenge to assume a position, but then in a challenging time as well. But you felt that the campus was supporting.
Oh, I did. Yes. And I think it was a group effort.
Right. No one person can lead it all.
No. But one thing I did enjoy doing that I had not been involved with the brand, the one thing that I hadn't been involved with up until that time was the Coordinating Board for Higher Education and working with other presidents at other universities. And so I really enjoyed that. And we got some equity funding passed during that time by coming together and forging relationships and working together with a plan. So that was new and different, and I did enjoy. I did enjoy the Jeff City activity.
So you were representing Missouri Southern in Jefferson
That's
City
right.
to the state legislature.
That's exactly right.
Tying that together.
Yeah.
So kind of expanding Missouri Southern's role in taking along those lines.
It's an area that I really hadn't been involved with, but it was a whole new, dimension that outside of Southern that took place. Very important to Southern because the funding.
Right.
That's
where
what
the
it's
money
all
comes
about.
from. Right.
Sure. So it was nice to get to that level and see how that all worked, that process worked.
Was it helpful getting feedback from people from outside the region about Missouri Southern as well as you went to Jefferson City?
It was. And it was just good to promote Southern. It was a role that was easy to play.
Right.
There's lots of great things to say about Southern. It made me proud. So I developed a lot of pride in what we accomplished here.
And the people throughout the campus then we could share their stories with you.
And that I could share with
Jefferson
those
City.
folks in Jeff City, and a lot of them had a lot of impact, and it did result in some positive funding.
Funding's always been a challenge, I know, throughout the history of the university, even back when it was a college. So that role of trying to make sure Missouri Southern's getting its fair share of the pie.
That was the challenge, indeed. That's where the equity funding came. That's the phrase, and that was the whole point of that. So made some progress in that area, but there's always progress to be made.
Right. There's always the future to look
at. Indeed.
Right. So you served as president, and then when you took the acting president's position, you know that it was a temporary position?
Yes, yes. That was a stipulation. Happy to step in for a short term, with the understanding that they would begin looking for a permanent replacement immediately, that I wouldn't be on the committee so I could concentrate on
operations.
Sure, and that worked really well. So they took care of that part, and I, just worked with everybody and
kept the operations, and we're building for the future.
Yeah.
And you say working with people. You also have the Board of Governors as part of the governing board, and then the president works very closely with the Board of Governors.
Yes, but I had worked closely with them as a vice president. So it was a different level, a different kind of interaction with them, but they were very supportive. So
there was a time when people pulled together, you feel, that really make things work. So after serving as president, you returned to the classroom.
Yes, well actually I agreed to stay on and help doctors, be there
for
the transition, and did that for 2 years, and then I was just fidgety and ready to go, and so went into the classroom and love it.
So tell us about your classroom, the types of classes. Some people who are watching may not be familiar with the School of Business, so they say, well, what do you teach at the School of Business? What kind of classes you might have?
I teach the business law classes, employment law, taught accounting law for a while, and I teach ethics and professional responsibility in the Masters of Accounting program. So the classes that are focused on
tying right into your legal background.
Which is great because I can apply so much of my experiences to the concepts and be able to illustrate, all right, here's this theory or here's this concept. Let me tell you how it works, how it plays out in the business world.
So your experiences, this is how it really works, what's happening, and tying along those lines. And do you work with them with a lot of, obviously, maybe upperclassmen, majors who are, in business administration?
Most of my students are juniors and seniors in my law classes, but I also teach an honors university experience class, which those are brand new coming in, and that's a real treat for me, because it's a whole different, I'm not teaching theories and subject matter, so to speak. We're more just trying to understand what this next phase of their life is and how to make the most of it, how to navigate through the campus and everything that they'll be doing over the next several years.
And so by dealing with a university experience class, for the audience watching, those are students who are new to Missouri Southern. In this case, these are freshman students.
Freshman students, first semester.
First semester honor students in the classes that you've had. So they, no matter what level they are coming to school for the first time, though, they have to learn that survival skill at Southern.
Indeed, indeed. And again, learn the language, learn the culture, learn about the opportunities. Because, there's lots of communication going on, but can you read everything? Can you absorb everything? It's hard. And so we share all the activities going on, who went to what, and let's talk about it. Would you go again? And, you know.
So you're building some camaraderie up within that
Sure.
class, people working together, that they'll be seeing each for the next 4 years in school together.
Right. Kind of like almost like a homeroom, the good parts of homeroom.
What do you enjoy the most about that class with the students working that are fresh to the university experience?
I like to see them come in, and most of them are, uneasy, scared, a little uncertain about what is going to happen.
Right.
And to see them gain confidence by the end of the semester, they've got it down.
They're going to make it.
They're registering for classes again, and the maturity that occurs during that first semester is pretty phenomenal.
And then are you able to follow up with them throughout their college career, or maybe at commencement say, I had that student in class?
Yes, oh yes. In fact, and several they've graduated now. I'm at that point
So you've had them
where they've, graduated, and we keep in touch. I'll get an email on occasion, and we'll get together at IHOP. That seems to be the place, and it's great. It's great to follow their careers, and they're doing some really amazing things. And I think about how they were when they came in. They almost become like your children,
right?
And you want the best for them.
You want them to succeed. And that relationship between a faculty member and students that we hear a lot about at Southern, that students get to know the faculty. Do you feel from a faculty perspective that's really important?
Oh, definitely. And I think that's something Southern can offer that you just don't get at most institutions. That, to me, is what makes us so unique and so special. If they want to get to know faculty, it can happen. Faculty are very, they're in their offices, they're open, they're receptive, they want to help, and you can continue conversations outside of class, in the hallways. So
the support is there and carries through for them throughout their life, obviously, if they're
Indeed,
contacting you afterwards.
And that's what I encourage the freshmen to do, get to know your faculty and develop relationships, and they can do a lot to help you. Serve as references, learn about job opportunities, particularly in your field.
Right. Well, from your perspective of dealing with the students and teaching throughout the years, the impact that you might have on their careers. You look at people who are out in the field now, maybe in the School of Business, that are now successful business people, or maybe even working in business law. What kind of feelings do you get when you see someone and say, I remember them in the classroom?
Right. Well, it's pride and some satisfaction that you played a small part in helping them be the person they became, and it's like you're proud of them. You get to know them, and again, you want the best. So when they accomplish things, and it's great when they let you know that something good has happened. I received a promotion, or I've been accepted into med school, or I'm thinking of law school. So it's great that we can still communicate.
Well, you obviously had a love and an interest for law school. What kind of tips do you give to someone who's thinking about that? You probably have students in class now that say, should I go to law school?
Oh, I do, and I always start with, number one, make sure your grades
Keep the grades up, right?
are high. So, if you're not up to a certain mark, retake classes if you have to, whatever, but get the highest GPA you can, because there's always a sliding scale with the LSAT and your GPA. So, the higher GPA you have, the less pressure you have to excel on the LSAT, even though anything you can do there to prepare for that is good too. You want to get the highest in both areas. But then I just like to talk to them about, why do you want to go into law? Why do you want to practice law? Because you can really do anything with it anymore.
Right.
You don't have to put up a shingle or go with a big law firm. You can get into government law, public administration.
There's so many options.
There's just so many options. It won't. I always say it's going to help you. Whatever you decide to do, it will only help you in there.
So helping them prepare and make those big decisions. Those big decisions are probably the toughest things that many students take. Yeah.
Most people don't go to law school because they say, I want to litigate. I want to go into the courtroom and I want to litigate. Some do, and you need to want to do that to do well in that, but there's so many other options.
So showing them those options, knowing what's out there. Right.
So that's what we kind of talk through.
Any little known facts that people may not realize from your career at Missouri Southern? I know years ago we used to do programs when they had the piano competition. I remember interviewing you and your family when you were host families. So I call that kind of a little known fact that you involved with cultural events like that.
Sandro Russo from Italy. We had him stay with us for about a week, and that was really a wonderful opportunity. We all bonded, and again, so proud. I mean, he was and he did very well in the competition. We have not been in touch with him for a while, but for probably 5 years after, it was regular. And, you know, it's
follow his career.
It's drifting off a little bit, but yeah, that was really exciting. That was fun. That was a treat.
Another way to get involved in the campus and the community and tying that together. Well, I know the question that a lot of people ask, as far as retirement plans, is there anything big on the bucket list or anything that you want to make sure you do when you leave?
We want to travel, travel. We want to just go to every national park. We're into national parks. I want to go to zoos. I've always loved visiting zoos, and it's probably been 20 years since I went to my last zoo. So, and there, you know, and every time we drive past a sign, it's like, oh, I wish I could. So we're going to, you know, just make huge, long, lengthy driving tours all throughout the United States, because there's so much beauty to see, things to discover. So that's our
list
our
of plans.
number one.
And you can do that then during what we call the off season.
I know.
When everybody's back at school, you could be doing the traveling.
I thought about that. Yes.
Well, any one thought that comes to mind as far as what you're leaving Missouri Southern with, the biggest memory, or what you remember most when you leave here?
What will I remember most? Probably just the relationships of the people. I think that, I mean, Missouri Southern is special because of the people, and starting in HR till now, you know, every department, every position I've had, from the community to the governors to just my peers, just exceptional people. So I will, you know, have good, really fond memories of that.
So even though you're leaving the university and the people, you can still keep in touch with people
yes,
not being here.
Yes, and I may see some people more now that I have a little more time. I hope I do. Hope to remain in contact with many.
Good. Any tips for anyone who might be at Missouri Southern now as far as their tip for success? Another faculty person or something, what you found to be key to success over the years?
Key to success, I would say, if you keep your focus on students, and that's who we are here to serve. And if you focus on what is best for the students, then you're going to be doing the best job you can, and they will thrive, and Southern will thrive as a result, and then we all thrive when Southern thrives. So just keep it student focused, and the rest pretty much takes care of itself.
Great. Well, Terri, I'd like to thank you for visiting with me today and sharing information with our audience.
Judy.
And thank you, and wish you the best of luck in retirement.
Thank
Enjoy.
you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. And I'd like to thank you, the viewers, for joining us this week on Newsmakers. I'm Judy Stiles. Hope you could join me again next week at the same time on this station. We'll see you then.